Guys, so today I have an amazing guest, and we're going to have an amazing show today. Here's something. A lot of people think that business success begins when you start a business, when you are doing something great. You already have a name, you already have a product, you have an idea, you're already selling. It doesn't. It can actually lead to a lot of failures. Business success or success in any area of life begins when you become the person who can drive success, who can achieve the heights that seem impossible for most people. And our guest today is one of those people. I've looked him up, and he is amazing at helping people find meaning in their life and lead a life with purpose and achieve their goals. Like no one can do it better. After reading his blog, after seeing his content, I can tell you this today is the show that you really need to watch and hear if you want to achieve greatness in your life. So with that, I'm going to bring on Kirk McCarthy, and Kirk is going to tell us how we can achieve greatness. So Kirk, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate you being here.
Magic, thank you for the privilege of giving me the opportunity to meet with you and to join in with some of the listeners and watchers who are out there viewing us today.
Excellent. So before we start, why don't you just tell us a little bit about what you do, how you got started into it, and how anybody can benefit from the work that you're doing?
I'm an executive and career and leadership coach. So that's a lot, but how did I get into that? I had a long career as a human resources executive, and late in that career, I was at a crossing, a point of where I wanted to do something else. So how do I go about making this decision at this crossroads? I hired a coach myself, and we went on a metaphorical journey, let's say, and we contemplated several different things that I could do for what the next chapter of my life, both personally and professionally, was going to look like. About the third meeting I had, I came to a breakthrough, an aha moment, where I announced, I know what I want to do. I want to do what you do. And that journey launched. That was 12 years ago. I went back, got some education, eventually got certified as a coach, but entered into that arena. Now, how did I get into executive and career coaching? Throughout my career, would have people, employees, come to me, and particularly later in that career, and say, Kirk, I'm trying to figure out what's next for me. I'm not enjoying what I'm doing right now. What else is out there? What are the steps I need to take to find what it is that I want to do? And how do I reach a level of self-actualization, of having success, however we define that, having enjoyment, having fulfillment. And so that became a natural for me to re-enter the workforce, so to speak, and work with people who are seeking those kinds of answers and are looking to have impact.
So I'm going to say something I read on your site. You talk about God-given potential, right? So it's almost like you say that people have their God-given potential. I'm going to ask you a two-part question. First is like, how did you find that this is your God-given potential? Because that's what it sounds like. This is not something you said, I'm going to go to school and learn how to help people. You just discovered one day and said, a lot of people need this, I'm going to do that. So how did you decide this is the potential? And why is it that so many people can't see their God-given potential? They miss out on that opportunity and end up spending a lot of time doing something that's not their potential.
A gift that God gave me is the ability to connect, to develop relationship. And I believe we are each made that way to be in relationship with others. What does being in relationship mean? For me, it means finding commonality. I am involved in a number of different activities besides being a coach. I work in the sports media. I teach group exercise. I wrote a book a year ago, athletic. I am married. I'm husband, father, grandfather. I love to travel. Geography fascinates me. I keep up with the news. The point is, I have a number of diversified interests. So when I encounter somebody looking to build relationship, I ask a lot of questions. It's what coaches do, but it's what I do. Somebody will mention, for example, I'm from India, let's say, as you are originally. Well, tell me about it. I know about Delhi. I know about some of the other places that are there. I know it's a vast country, the populations. I know there's a number of different cultures that exist there. Tell me a little bit about yourself and your background and what was it like growing up. I am on a quest for learning. I want to learn more about that. And I've realized people like to have a platform, an opportunity to talk about themselves. You give them that opportunity, that is one of the best gifts that you can give them. And it costs nothing to anyone other than time, other than valuing that intersection that you're at that point. So developing that relationship is key to me. What do I get out of it? I learn more about culture, about how people think, about how they got to where they are. And all those elements help me to become a better coach. So that, if that would be a secret ingredient, secret sauce, it's something anybody can have. But I have attempted to capitalize on that and realizing that is an essential ingredient in my coaching.
This is so amazing. And there's so much I can talk about that. This could be like a 3-hour interview, I have a feeling. So, first of all, what you say is so great. What you have identified is the relationship is your thing. And you're taking that approach and applying to every area. You're not saying, I'm in the sports, I'm going to go, from the sports approach, or I'm in the, business side, and I'm going to go with business. You're saying, no, I'm going to use relationship, and I'm going to use that to build my sports, help people in the sports area. I'm going to help the people in the business area. So you have identified that one impact, one thing that's personal to you, that's your mission, and you're using it to make connections and drive growth in every different industry. First of all, I want to tell you, thanks for making us all look bad, because you're like, I'm doing this and this and this and this, and everybody else is like, I can barely do one thing, and there's this guy who's like, I can do this and this and this. But here's the thing, things become so easy when you identify your core, because then work becomes effortless. If I just have to use relationships to connect with people, you can go anywhere and it feels effortless. But if you have to think, oh, now I have to run a fitness program, what I'm going to do, what is going to be my programming there, what kind of things I'm going to do, now you're lost. Now you're like switching to helping people out with their careers, and you're like, okay, I need to read some psychology books and what psychology tactics I'm going to use, you're gone. But if you're like, no, I'm going to connect with this person, I'm going to know who they are, where they're coming from, what their challenges are, then I'm going to use my experience to lead them. So that's what you are doing. And that's what the core mission is. And I always tell people in business, if you can identify your core mission, like stop following metrics. I'm going to create a sales funnel. I want to write this headline. Just focus on, this is who I am. This is what drives me. This is my trigger. And apply that to whatever you're doing. Success is guaranteed. So this is a really good lesson from you.
Every day for me, I can't tell if it's going to be a day of work or a day of vacation. I may be on vacation every day of the week, but I may be working as well. And why do I say that? It all blends together. And my joy comes from those relationships, beginning at 6 a.m. in the morning, teaching a group exercise class and connecting with the participants who are in there, to coming home, having a client that I get to coach and learn from and hear further stories that are going to enrich me and ask questions about that, to later in that day, deploying my analytical and logical inclinations as an Enneagram 5 to prepare for a broadcast of a sporting event later on during that week, which is also going to allow me, when I get there, the chance to connect with people, to hear what they're talking about, and me as a silent partner, as a statistician, to supply data to enrich that conversation. It all goes back to people connection and relationship.
Right. So when somebody comes to you, how can you help them have the same clarity you have? So to me, it seems like what you do enriches you, it nourishes you, so you can keep doing it, right? There are people who will do what they're doing, but they're miserable at the end of the night, so they can't keep doing. When somebody comes to you and says, I am lost, I'm like not making progress in my career, or I've changed my career multiple times, I can't find my way. How do you lead them? What would you tell those people? How should they go about finding that one thing that really excites them and makes them want to work every day?
I've been lost too at times. And this term that I hear a lot from people right now is I'm stuck. So how do you get unstuck? Sometimes being stuck, depending on what you're dealing with at the time, could be a very secure place to be. The point in time when I was stuck, I felt like I was in the wilderness. It was darkness, surrounded by trees, but I was also protected because I was surrounded by things. You can only do that for so long, and eventually there comes a point where you seek some light out of that darkness, and that's going to require some movement. Move is my 4-letter word for the year, because for a lot of people, getting unstuck is going to be one step forward. It may be as simple as, gee, I just got to get out of bed this morning. And once you get out of bed, I'll splash a little water on my face, and maybe I'll brush my teeth, and maybe I'll throw on some clothes. And maybe I will go and grab a cup of coffee if you're a coffee drinker. Maybe I will cook some breakfast. Maybe I'll do some dishes. Maybe I'll check some email. Pretty soon you are gaining momentum. You are doing some things that you can look back on, build on, and say, I have accomplished something. What is the next step forward that I can take, which may be a task that is more challenging? I need to make a phone call to somebody. I need to network. I need to talk to them. And you turn that around to, I don't want to infringe upon their time, to eventually, I want to infringe upon their time because they may need to hear from me. They may need some encouragement. I can help them. They may need to hear from me from the standpoint of I have some skills and talents that they are looking for. I don't know. And I'm helping myself through helping them. I saw so many examples of that, particularly during COVID. 5-6 years ago, people were stuck. And I had one friend that made it a practice every day. I'm going to call somebody. I'm going to check on them. And what impact has he had? Maybe not so much on those folks, but he has had a huge impact on me, because when I coach somebody, I tell his story.
Right. This is so great. And you talked about momentum. That really brings something to me. One of the things I find is momentum is the key to success at anything in life. And momentum doesn't start when you're out in the market. Momentum starts when no one's watching you. That's when you're going to office every day, working on a project that's months away before you release to people, months before you bring money in. That's when you're in the ring and no one's there to clap and applause while you're punching, the punching bag. So momentum begins when you start your journey, nobody's watching. You have to go there through the grind every day, working on something. All you have is faith, and you have to keep going until you can later reap the rewards. But what happens is a lot of people lose that momentum in business. or in life in general. Somebody will be like, I want to do this business, that sounds really good. They will get started, and after a week of being alone, working on that, not seeing any measurable results, they'll be like, oh, I think this is not for me. Or they might see, oh, you're a coach, and they're like, oh, I can be a coach too. I'm from a corporate background, let me do this. They'll get into it. A week later, they'll lose the momentum. So what do you do, and how do you help people who end up losing momentum? How can people not lose momentum and keep going when no one's watching, no one's clapping for them?
It's a great question, Magic. And I'm going to go to a mind-body connection. And I love these folks that work in offices, and they have the opportunity to work on a laptop while they're on a treadmill. There is a physical motion that's taking place as they're working mentally. For me, I write blogs. I wrote a book last year. I wrote that book on a bike. I would go out, and I'm a big cyclist. And I mean, I didn't have a piece of paper and scribble it down, but when my mind was taken and my body to a different place and a different mindset, I could think differently, and I would craft things in my mind about what I wanted to say. Maybe I got to a stop, I could enter that in on notes in my phone to have that back to refer on, but there was clarity that was achieved during that time. So sometimes when we feel stuck and we're sitting in a chair and we're staring at our laptop, that's getting up, that's taking a walk, transporting yourself somewhere else, getting on a bike, running, to free your mind to come up with a different perspective. And that has worked marvelously for me, and I know for many other people also.
This is so true. So this applies to me also, by the way. So there are days I'll wake up, I'll be like, what am I going to do today? I have no idea. But I always start my day with an hour-long walk. And when I go on my walk, that's where my whole day comes into perspective. I'm listening to my music, and I'm thinking, all the content I create, all the, any next move I'm going to make comes when I'm walking. So what you say is so good. When you're stationary, everything in your life goes stationary. So if you want to achieve something in your life and you're just stuck, like you said, you're stuck, you don't know what to do next, what should be my next move, get physical. Go on a bike ride, go for a walk, go for a swim. While you're doing that, like you said, your mind's gonna free up, and that time you're gonna get all those ideas which are free of distraction. If I'm sitting here feeling dull, I can't have the greatest idea to make a difference. But if I'm active, if I'm on the go, like you said, the mind and body connection, the idea is going to come running in, and I'm going to pick up on that thing, say, that's what I want to do. And now your whole day or your whole week, all year is planned just from that movement. So that's really accurate.
And you're taking care of yourself. You're not sitting down, I'm bored, I'm going to eat, not going to exercise. You're taking care of your body while you're taking care of your mental capacity as well.
Yes. I have like 10 questions. We're only in question 2. I don't even think we're going to be able to cover them all, but I'm so excited because everything you're saying has so many different branches to cover, and I'm loving that. We can always do a second one, but I want to continue on this stream because this is a very powerful stream. The other thing I feel people lose momentum is because oftentimes people start to do things for the wrong reason. So somebody might start to say, I'm going to become a sports person because they saw somebody else, playing sports and becoming a celebrity. So they're like, I want to be a celebrity. So like what you said early on, they're not doing what's personal to them. That's not their God-given potential. They're doing something because they saw God-given potential in someone else, and they're thinking they succeeded with that, so let me do that too. So when they start working, they lose momentum because they're like, this doesn't feel right. If you have a purpose, I don't care if you're alone, if nobody's around there, you will keep doing it because this is important to you, right? All the sports people will tell you they practice for hours alone instead of going to parties, hanging out, and that's what makes them a great sports person, a great athlete. But people who don't have that purpose, they haven't identified their purpose, they don't have the same commitment. So when somebody comes to you, what do you do to know or help them identify if they're working on their God-given potential, or if they're just imitating someone and that's why they're losing the momentum? Because I feel that's a big part of it. Do you feel that or no?
Yeah, and fundamentally, as a coach, why should they engage with me? They can go to a lot of people for advice. They can go to a parent, they could go to another family member, a spouse. Why me? Because of objectivity, number one. I don't have any preconceived notions about what that client should do, but I can say this, I am for that client, FOR, and what they want to do. So there are no preconceived notions about, I think you ought to do this, I think you ought to do that, or pressures. My parents were doctors or attorneys, so I think I should do that as well. No, let's seek out what you think your God-given potential is and your dream, and not the expectation of others. How do you do that? You identify what it is that you lean towards. I talked about myself being logical and analytical. What kind of professions would lend themselves to that? I've entered into one, which is also somewhat of a compromise, because my dream was to play in the NBA. I learned in high school that wasn't going to happen, but there are adjustments that can be made. And I made that by becoming a sports statistician. Somebody else could make that by working in a front office of a franchise, becoming an agent for a player, working in administration at a college or university that has a sports program. So there are wide alternatives that can come out of our dreams. We need to be open to that, receptive to it, and inventive towards what slot can I fit into that will utilize my gifts and gifts and distinctions that I have that go way beyond what anybody else may be able to bring to the table.
Absolutely. And I think this is where a coach also comes in really handy. I'll tell you a true story from my life. So I was also lost. When I was in college, I was changing my major every year. Nothing was making sense to me. And I took a Myers-Briggs test, and it said I can be a teacher, a lawyer, or a detective. So I'm like, okay, these are my three choices. I was like, I don't want to be a lawyer. Every Indian is a lawyer or a doctor. That's not me. The second choice was a teacher. And I was like, I can't be the teacher writing on blackboard. They don't make any money. And then I was like, detective. I was like, I don't want to be that. And now in perspective, when I look at things, I am a teacher. I'm just not writing on blackboards. At the time, I think you were like, oh, teacher means writing on a blackboard. There's a lot of detective work here because you're reading your client and you're trying to read things that they're not even telling themselves. You're trying to see who this person is, what's holding that back, what's deep in there that's not coming to the surface. That's a detective work. And oftentimes you have to make cases to them on their behalf, marketing. So sometimes people look at things in a very narrow light, and they need someone, like you said, there are alternatives of doing everything. Teaching doesn't mean writing on blackboard, and you need an experienced person who can help you translate your skill, your God-given potential to something that also excites them and just matches their calling, I guess.
And we can go back to our dreams. For me, I started off as a journalism major in college. I wanted to be a sports writer. I had a professor who discouraged me from that, said this is going to be a difficult living for you. It's a narrow field. And so I pursued a management degree instead. But fast forward to where we are now. I'm in the sports field. I'm working in the media. I'm a member of the Football Writers of America Association. Magic, I get to vote on All-America teams every year. I'm like pinching myself. This is a dream I would have had as a 9-10-year-old kid. It's back. And I don't have to go through all the practice and dedication it takes to play in the NBA. It's pretty safe. I don't get my teeth knocked out.
That's great. That is great. That's what I mean. So I think this is what it is. I sometimes argue about these things that in schools, in education system, they don't bring these things up. They just keep to like, the practical subjects, but this is where people get lost. And that's what I firmly believe. And I'm a coach, and I still have coaches and mentors around me, because you always need people who can see things differently than you and show you how the same thing you want to do can be done in different ways, and how it can mean different things. So this is really great. Now, before I go forward, because this question is really like, again, I was saving this for the end, but I have to ask you now. So you wrote a book. Because you're giving me so much wisdom, I'm wondering what's covered in that book. Now I have to read that book. So I know this is not the right time to ask that question, but I have to ask. So tell me that book you wrote, why you wrote that, and what can I or listeners learn from that?
Well, the book, how it came about, is kind of funny. I think when I launched my coaching business, I had to learn about sales and marketing, and how do you establish a website? How do you get a media presence? And so one of the components was I started writing blogs, and I wrote these while I was cycling. Ideas that would come up. I'd see some wildlife out on the side of the road, a deer, and I think of a metaphor related to a deer, go back and write about it. So that's what was prompting all that. I had the fortune of, we've got a local tabloid paper here, that the publisher asked me to share a piece every month when it comes out. So bottom line, these started accumulating. And three things happened. One, I got to the point of, I've got all these blogs, I need to do something with it. Second, that publisher said, Kirk, you got a lot of good material here. You ought to write a book. Okay. But the third that took me over the threshold was I was researching what it takes to write a book. And I learned that 80% of people that are out there have a desire to write a book. Less than 3% actually do. And I thought to myself, I've never been top 3% in anything. Here's my chance. So
I love that. The attitude, yes.
Yeah, that's how it came about. And it is a series of blogs. Vignettes is what I call it, based on observations that I've made, experiences that I've gone through, things I've learned from clients, communication, leadership, keys to success, random thoughts, things that I picked up on as a kid, but have maybe brought forward to this point in time, inspirations to many of us, maybe inspirations to me personally. And the book is designed primarily for Zs and millennials, people that are, again, those folks that I didn't have the opportunity when I was in their shoes to have somebody to shepherd me along the way. But really, Magic, it's for all of us. I theme it from kids from 4 to 84. There is wisdom to be gleaned from all that, and not so much my wisdom per se, but wisdom that I maybe picked up from others that I think
this is great. I can't remember the exact title. It was something like advice for my children and for your children too, or something. I'm sorry, I can't remember the exact title, but it was something like that, right?
There it is.
There it is. Thoughts for my kids and other people's kids. So yes, and I thought it was so brilliant. I'm going to take a little detour here, because you were talking about advice for this generation, and I think this is so important, because I really feel so many people are lost today, and lost from everything from personal life, the values for yourself, family values, social values. They're all confused because there's so many conflicting views out there. There are so many different kind of peer pressure. There's not even one group or the other group they can fit in, and everybody's lost. Everybody's trying to do their best, and I almost feel like the voice of sanity is missing, which is impacting them. Because here's the thing: I can be the richest person, the most famous person, the most successful person, but if I don't have my values in place, if I don't have my family values, social values in place, I will always feel lost. Everything will feel meaningless to me. We were talking about God-given purpose. You don't even know what your potential is, what direction you want to go, what impact you want to make. You'll never feel fulfilled. You would achieve everything and you will still feel empty. So I feel the wisdom you're talking about, and I'll tell you a really quick true story. A huge part of my growth happened with someone. You remind me of someone. He's no more, but I love him to death. He's like an elder brother to me. When I came to US, he was my mentor. He helped me in so many great ways to assimilate in this country. So I came from India. I had no education background. I was writing my first book. My English was terrible. What you can say in one sentence took me 3 paragraphs. So he was someone who would sit with me every night, edit my book for me, help me write it. The American English, help me with my thoughts. And he taught me everything about life, from what wine to drink, how to go on a date, what to do on a date, like everything you can imagine to assimilate in this society. And he helped me with so many, he gave me so much clarity, because one of the things we did every evening was we would have a discussion on something or other. It could be political, it could be social, it could be anything. But that gave me a chance to have a reasonable conversation with a rational person. And it helped me identify who I was. It helped me understand my place in the society, my role in the society. So everything we do, from our relationships to work to waking up and going to bed, is all in connection to the world around us. And if you don't have that, I won't even say wisdom, just the understanding of your place in that world, everything is meaningless. So I feel more than a college degree, more than a technical skill, this is way more important. So I definitely have to get this book and read this, and I think everybody should read this, because this is way more important, and this will bring you way more success and happiness than any other metric can.
It's observing people and how they respond to situations, and typically not many words said. I had a fellow that I was in the Rotary Club with years and years ago. And he was someone who had a lot of wisdom, I thought. But one particular Monday morning when we were meeting, we had learned that his son, who was not that old, 34 years old at the time, had died of a heart attack over the weekend. Oh, poor Fritz. We feel so bad about it. He came to our Monday morning Rotary meeting, and everybody was like, "What are you doing here? You should be grieving." And Fritz's response was, "I can't do anything to bring him back. I need to be at the place where God wants me to be right now." And that's all he said, but it had such an impact on me of how people respond to bad things happening to them. And that's about the worst that could happen to somebody. But yet he was there, and he's no longer with us now. Fritz is not. But what an example, and I refer to him in my book.
Right. And I think, this is what you're saying about this, and I was thinking, the number one reason most people don't progress is because, like you were saying, they are stuck. They feel, I can't do this, I can't move forward. So they will always have a thing like, I'm so old, I'm old now. I've been in this corporate world for 40 years. I don't know how I can restart, how I can rise in the leadership, how I can go. So people always have a reason why they feel they're limited. What do you think about people? How can people break past this programming to say, I am stuck, I can't do it, I'm so old now, I can start. Like you're talking about, I want to do something and get in the 3%. Most people will be like, oh, only 3% people can do that, so I'm not even gonna start. A lot of people write themselves off from the beginning. How would you help someone? What would you tell to someone who thinks there is a problem they can't overcome, they can't get to the top, they can't become a leader? How would you help them?
Well, I want to speak first of all to my brothers and sisters who are quote unquote old. I'm 69 years old, and I was having dinner with some friends the other night, and they mentioned, oh, isn't it a drag getting old? And I said, no, I want to get as old as I can. That's kind of objective, So we're playing this game called musical chairs, and I hope my chair is still there, and I hope that I'm blessed with good health and can continue to do the things I'm doing because I've learned some things compared to when I was young. And hopefully, I'm not going to make some of those mistakes. And I have a lot to share with others that go with that. So, I was just talking about this morning, the limitations that we face and how they can create opportunities. I think of Anne Frank, who wrote her diary while she was running away from being confined. She eventually loses her life, but her dream when she was 13, I want to be a famous writer someday. She was. I think of Joni Eareckson, who was a skier and had a ski accident, became a quadriplegic. She has had a testimony to many others out there of how she's overcome that, become a painter. She's become a motivational speaker. So I use those two examples because sometimes what we see as our limitations are creating opportunities for us to provide an example to others, to have impact on others. And there are many, many more like that. So, yeah, you may be in a difficult situation right now. The finances are tough. I hate the job I'm in. What can you do that gives you a perspective that nobody else has right now that can have impact on people? That's the challenge for each of us.
Absolutely. And it's such a wise thing. I can relate to everything you're saying. Back in my life, the same thing. So what I feel is like most people, they get stuck or they don't grow because of their self-imposed limitations. They think I can't do that, or they think this is the best I can do. And the reason they don't think to break out of that is one, either they're not connected to their purpose, so they don't have the same attachment, or because they don't discover their God-given potential, they don't think it's necessary for them to do so others can see it. Back when I came to the US first time, I'd never been to a gym until then. And I started going to the gym first time in my life on a treadmill, on that stationary bike. And I would sit there and burn like 30, 40 calories and feel like I was Sylvester Stallone. I'm doing this and that and all that. And then one day there comes a guy who was 70 years old, sits on the stationary bike, goes for an hour, burns 700 calories. I was like, what the hell? Here I used to burn like 50 calories and think I was such an amazing athlete. And there is this guy, 70 years old, burning this. So I started doing that. I'll be honest, I've never been able to break his record. I'm sure many people have. I've never gone past 600 calories in an hour. But after a few days, I walked up to him and I said, can I tell you something? First of all, congratulations, you can do this. And you were really an inspiration for me because I used to burn just 50 calories a day and thought I was so great until I saw you and I thought, shit, I'm doing so bad. And then he tells me that the school had hired him. So the school's rowing team had hired him. He said the main purpose they hired me was because when people look at me, they have one of the two reactions, either to say, if he can do it, I can do it better than them. His words were like, if this old fart can do it, I can beat him. Or their thing is like, I can never do this, and they run away. And all they're trying to do is bring the top talent in, people who are driven, people who are motivated. So this guy at the age of 70 recognized that's his purpose, to motivate people around him. And he didn't think this was my limitation, but he was connected to his purpose. And that's one thing I tell everybody, whatever you want to do, don't just jump, I want to be a marketer, I want to be a coach, I want to be a leader. Start with your purpose. If your purpose is aligned, success is guaranteed because you will understand the importance of what you're doing. If you don't see that, then you're a lost cause. Then you're just chasing shiny objects, which sooner or later you're going to lose interest and you're going to walk away. So what you said resonates so well with me that if you have a purpose, it's always going to help other people.
You're absolutely right, Magic. And I'm part of a Thursday morning men's group, and we were talking about mission today. And organizations have missions, goals. One of the questions I asked and I challenged the group with is, do you have a personal mission? Do you maybe have a family mission that goes with that? And none of us could really answer that. But for me, it's to go out and be a witness to my faith And that's an easy one. How do I go about doing that? That gets into the weeds of okay, that's a strategic plan, that's objectives, that's goals. But the point of it is, for any of us, regardless of whether we have a faith belief or not, what is your mission? Why do you exist? What are you seeking to go out and do as being a part of this world? And you start there, that gives you some purpose. Okay, how am I fulfilling this today? One step at a time, movement.
Absolutely. This is great. And I also want to add one more thing because you brought this up. I really do not believe in this concept of age. I think this is the most dumb thing ever. Like even, so I'm 50 years, I'm 49 something now. When I look at my age, I feel like I should be 19. There is something wrong with the calendar age. And I firmly believe that your age is not your calendar year, but the age that you're living. I go to bed at 10 every night. I start my day at 3 every morning, 7 days a week. I'm never tired. I never run out of things to do. I work hard, I play hard. And I feel like what you were saying, when you have faith, right? You connect with your faith, you're doing something that's meaningful, purposeful to you. It's never tiring. It's never draining. You get so much more energy because it actually excites you. You feel good about your life. If you're not doing something, when you're feeling dull, even if you're 18 years old, you feel like you're 40 because you're like, oh God, I have nothing to do. I'm sitting on the couch all day. It's really hard to sit somewhere, not do anything, be dull, and then get up and say, yeah, I'm going to conquer the world. That doesn't happen. Because then you get up and you're like, the day was bad. I'm just going to go and sleep. But when you're active, like you said, if you start your day with some physical activity, you've already conquered your health goals. You're already like, I'm going to be in shape. You're doing something. You go out. Especially, I always say, I'm not even a big fan of gym. I always say go out because when you go out, you also see other people. And I don't know why people like to be lonely, but I feel when you're even in the company of people, even if you don't talk to them, you feel alive, you feel energized, you see different people, and you just feel you're part of this world. It makes you feel good, it energizes you. And you take the observations, like you said, you observe people and you use that to write your wisdom in those blogs. That's what you did. So you look at people, you get ideas, you get excited, you see someone like, oh, that's cool, I want to be like that, I want to do this person is cool. You take that energy, go home, do something creative with that. You'll never feel you're 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. Limitations wouldn't matter because what you're doing is so cool, it energizes you, and you're ready to do whatever you want to do. So I feel like that's a key part that you have to become that person, go out, get excited, and achieve things.
I tell people I'm old, maybe age-wise. Five out of every, or I'm older than 5 out of every 6 people in America right now. So I may be old, but I'm immature. And so
Exactly.
I'm trying to stay young and youthful in the way that I think. There's a word that I have extracted from my vocabulary. I've added the word move. I'm really emphasizing that. But the word I've extracted is busy. And I have substituted occupied and engaged for that. The reason being, busy to me can be an excuse to, I don't have time for you. I want to have time for whoever comes in my pathway that needs or requires that time. I become engaged, occupied with them, not busy. I can always come back to the paperwork, the administrative things, checking on email, but where am I needed at this moment in time, and am I available for that?
So I'm going to switch the track here because I was thinking about something. When you talk about busy, I was thinking there are people who not only think busy, but they also feel molded. They feel like this is who I am. I just crunch numbers all day long. How can someone break out of that mold and feel I can be a leader people want to follow, will listen to me, work with me? So take your example, right? You went from your corporate work to say, I'm going to help people. But there was something where you said, okay, people will come to me. They will want to take advice from me. They will want to work with me. How can somebody go from thinking, I'm just a worker, I'm just a busy bee, to know I am someone that people will want to work with, someone people will see me as a leader, someone people will want to go to. How does that transition happen? How can someone make that transition?
Well, for me, in that phase of my working career, it was identifying people who could be models. We are original products, true, but we are a compilation of everything that we've experienced along the way. It's like putting together a meal which has a recipe that goes with it. We're going to put a little bit of this salt and some pepper and some curry and some other spices that go here to season this. And that becomes who we are. Who are those spices? Who are those ingredients? They're people we encounter. I like the way, for instance, that I see so-and-so communicate with others. There are certain characteristics. I want to mimic that. Or there is a way that I see someone else scheduling their time, not only at work, but in life. There seems to be a balance. I like the fact they're coaching their kids' sports teams. How do they carve out time for that? They seem to have their priorities in order. So I'm going to add a little bit of that, and I'm going to start practicing that. I like the way somebody gets up on a platform and delivers a speech. What is their cadence? What is their rhythm? What can I learn from that? So for those of us that are out there looking for those formulas, observe people, look at them. Who brings something that is a positive element? And conversely, who is out there that's doing some things that I don't want to repeat and I want to learn from? I remember my first job out of college, I learned everything from observing the management there that I shouldn't be doing. And that was a valuable thing to pick up on for me, for certain.
Right.
So that would be part of that formula that goes with that.
But to me, it seems like, and I'm not trying to take any credit away from you, you seem like someone who loves challenges, loves breaking the barriers and keep moving forward. I'm not saying you didn't have setbacks, you didn't fall back, but for some people, their limitations or self-imposed limitations are so strong, and there's also such strong false evidence that they think this can't even be done. I'll take example from my life. When I first started my journey, I was like, people told me you'll never be successful as a coach. You're an Indian guy, you have a very thick accent, nobody would want to come to you. And in my mind, I also believed that, because when I saw myself in my videos, my accent was like 1,000 times thicker than it is now. So if I go 10 years back, even now when I look at those videos, I'm like, oh, what was I doing, right? But so when I started, I thought that is true. I'm Indian, I have no personality. Like these were my mindsets, right? Because I'm comparing, but these were limitations that I bought into. And then there was enough proof around, because people were like, have you ever seen a Hollywood actor who's an Indian? And you're like, yeah, that's true. So what happens is there's a lot of, how they say, statistics don't lie, but you can lie with statistics, right? So I can take a case and present it in a different light and prove my point. So a lot of people, they look at the wrong numbers, wrong data, and convince themselves this is a limitation I can never break out of. What would you tell them? What should be their starting point? How can they get out of that? You're like, Magic, you're throwing the most difficult questions. What is this?
No, good questions, Magic. I love it. How about taking those things that you think are limitations and converting them into a strength? Let's say, for instance, and this is a pretty light example, but when I first moved to Missouri from Texas, I'm a cowboy. I had a Texas accent. Y'all, used all those colloquialisms. I brought that in as a strength because it distinguished me and made me stand out compared to everyone else. So I got that label, but I embraced it. I see people that come from other countries that maybe have that accent. That becomes part of their attraction, some of their character. And so how do I hone that and become more effective. I've seen comedians that have certain shticks, entertainers. They all seem to have a characteristic, a brand that distinguishes them and makes them successful. So rather than running away, so to speak, from what they see as a limitation, how do I make that limitation into a strength?
See, I see again, I know you are such a strong character that there is no problem you can solve. There's no obstacle you can get over. In fact, the bigger the obstacle, the more you get excited. I can tell because I'm that way, kind of like throw the biggest problem and I'll show you how to solve that. But a lot of people are not at that place. A lot of people feel like they even see a small problem and they're like, I can't do this. I was a failure all my life. Everything I tried to do, I failed. This is another problem. I'm going to do this again. I'm going to fail. People are going to laugh at me. I'm going to feel worse about myself. And also then a lot of people also have this idea of how they want to come across. Going back to my business, when I was doing my business, one of the biggest success came to me was people actually told me, Magic, you're from India, you have a thick accent, you're an ugly guy. If you can do this, anybody can do this. Now, a lot of people don't like hearing those comments. And I was like, great. That's my sales. I turned that into my strength. And I said, if an ugly Indian guy with a thick accent like me can do it, anybody can do it. But you see, again, it takes a certain kind of person to say, I don't care what you think of me. If this turns to my advantage, I'll do that. But you have to understand, a lot of people, it's very hard for them to do it. So for a lot of people, they're like, I want to be cool. I don't want somebody telling me I'm ugly or that I have a thick accent. It just breaks them down, right? I know where you're coming from. You can do it. I can do it. But I can also see someone coming to you because then you can give them that insight and help them transition. But let's say somebody's not there. They're just listening to this and they're thinking, but I cannot do this because this is my limitation. How can they transition?
I have a wonderful book that I go to and I refer clients to it. It's called The Noticer. It's by author by the name of Andy Andrews. And his story is told similar to mine in a series of vignettes. It's this central character named Jones. It's not Mr. Jones, not Mrs. Jones, just Jones. And people know very little bit about him other than he notices things that are happening around him. He asks wonderful questions. But one of the things that he went into with one of the first characters that's in the story is he challenged him to go to the library, check out books, and read. Read about Abraham Lincoln, George Washington Carver, Theodore Roosevelt, Frederick Douglass, a series of people just to educate yourself. And what you learn is about these people who have been successful, the hardships they went through, the times they failed. Lincoln was not voted in 7 times before he became president, and how these disappointments, these setbacks, help to build our character and prepare us for great things that are ahead. I had a client, it's one of my first clients when I first hung out the shingle in coaching. Introvert, woman, single woman, had been single her entire life, no kids, no family. And she was trying to figure out her life course and couldn't establish it. Didn't have a whole lot of relationships, but we hung in there. We talked. She made a discovery that if she went and volunteered at a historical center in period attire and presented herself as a pilgrim, she became somebody else. So this pioneer woman who's introverted is greeting people that come to this museum in upstate Ohio. That gave her the confidence to take the next step forward to go door to door canvassing votes for a political candidate. There's that idea of acting upon something, finding your comfort zone, and gaining that momentum. So, two things that and reading about people who have had setbacks and how they overcame those. We can learn from that.
Brilliant, brilliant. And this again something I say, if if you want to build a successful business, successful project, the starting point is not your business or project. Starting point is always you. You have to become the person that can drive success. And one of the ways you can do that, like you said, is when you think something can be done, you borrow the inspiration from lives of other people. That's where the reading comes in. You look at other people who went through adversity, and you don't even have to go back in time. You can even see it in present time. I'll give an example of a politician who's very controversial right now, Trump. Doesn't matter you like him, you don't like him, irrelevant. What I look at is he was made fun of in a White House correspondent dinner. You'll never be a president. I am a president. He took that to a mission and said, no matter what it takes, I'm going to become. You like him, not, it doesn't matter. What matters is you can take inspiration from someone to say when they set their heart to something, they made it happen. And so when you look at people, even if you're not a fan of them and they say they could do it, you can take that confidence from them and say, if they can do it, I can do it. And that's the first thing you need to go anywhere with that. And the second thing, like you said, for momentum, it's really important that you start taking actions because actions compound and convert into momentum. You're not going to get momentum sitting on your chair. You just start taking action, and you start taking those actions because you have faith and you believe in the mission that you're on. So if you're stuck with something, whatever you said in this, by the way, those questions were already out the window an hour back because everything you started telling me, just one thing led to the other because it all makes sense. It's all about momentum. And momentum comes from becoming the person who can drive the momentum and having that mission, having that core drive that says, I'm going to do this no matter what. And when you get stuck, you look for coaches, mentors, inspiration, and keep going and not stop because that is so important to you. And that's the thing that I got from this interview. Am I on the right or am I on the wrong?
And guess what? You're not tired anymore. You're subsisting like you are, Magic, on 5 hours of sleep each night, and you're ready to hit the ground running at 3 a.m. the next day.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I know I've taken a lot of time, but I still have two more questions and I'll let you go, I promise. But I can talk to you for 10 days. And this, I honestly, is an interview I'm going to pin on almost every side. Again, because there is no business connection. I'm not selling, you're not selling. The reason is I feel these kind of discussions are way more important than any business discussion because this is what molds you into the person who creates success. And I always tell people this has to be a starting point. Even when people come to me for business, I never start with business. I first work on them because if I give them business tasks and they're not up to it, they don't have the personality, that's a clear path to failure. But if they become that person that is going to succeed, they don't need me, they don't need any system. Their success is guaranteed because they've already made a commitment to succeed and they've become the person capable of driving success. So these kind of interviews, and in fact, shameless pitch, again, there's not even a pitch, it's the best advice I can give to anyone, whether you're 20 or whether you're 80. Talk to him. If you're lost, you're stuck, you're confused, talk to him. Because people with wisdom, people like him have helped me eliminate obstacles and move forward in my life. What he's giving you is not bullshit stories, giving you examples from his life. He's telling you how he overcame things and achieved things. He's telling you what he's telling his children. And if you are not wise enough to take that advice, you really want to ask yourself why, because that's really holding you back. So I'm telling you, if you're stuck in anything, in business, career, anything, give him a call. I'm not getting a penny. It's not even about sales. It's just really about you growing because there is infinite success. There's room for everyone to succeed. So if you can reach out to him, talk to him, and you can also succeed, why the hell not? Because someday we all can get together and say, we all influence each other's success. And I feel that's the whole part of these meetings, these connections. We all want to help each other get in the top of our game and live a great life. So No, I'm not done. This was not the ending. I still have my two questions, but I just had to throw this because I'm so excited about it. I hope you can already tell from my voice. I'm actually excited talking to you because there's so many great ideas coming to me, so many great memories coming back to say, oh yeah, I did that, and that's what shaped me into this. Oh yeah, that advice made me that. And I'm hearing all those things after so many years. I'm like, this is so great. And people really need to hear this because that's what they're missing. That's what's keeping them from growing. So my last second question to you is, you've been working with so many people for so long. Are there one or two common limitations or obstacles you feel a lot of people face that holds them back, or is it different for everyone?
Well, before I answer that, I want to go back to what you were just saying before about seeking wisdom and seeking advice. To ask somebody for their advice, and I say this to my kids in particular, is one of the greatest honors, one of the greatest gifts you can give somebody. And that means the world to me when I hear from my son or from my daughter, Dad, what do you think I should do in this situation? That's gold. So getting back to your question, the biggest obstacle, again, is this little spirit that sits on your shoulder and says that you can't do it. They are going to be naysayers that are out there for sure. Mine was back after I finished high school and I didn't know what I wanted to do as far as study was concerned. So my parents arranged for me to go see a psychologist and administered a series of tests. And what I remember from those tests is, based on what I've learned about you, how you're wired, you're going to have a hard time achieving success in college. That was a motivation for me. It was kind of like, darn it, that's made me mad now. I'm going to go out and prove you wrong. Yeah. So, for those of us that are competitive, first of all, use those instances as a rallying cry to overcome, to achieve beyond what others think you're going to be able to do. For the rest of us who are not so competitive, you have a purpose in this world. Search for, discern, figure that out. Each day that goes by that you're not taking the opportunity to use that gift, use that God-given talent I talked about, is a lost opportunity, not for you, but for all the others who are going to benefit from that. So don't deprive your community, your territory, that opportunity to receive from you what it is that you deliver. And maybe that's not saying anything. It may be someone just needs you to sit with them for a while without using any words. I find the times I have greatest impact often are those that people say, well, you helped me so much in this instance. And I'll say, thank you, you're welcome. And I leave thinking, what did I do?
Absolutely. But this is what I'm telling you, and this is actually a perfect example of that. As you were talking, one of the impacts that stood out to me, which you probably don't even realize, when you were talking about if you're competitive, use your competitiveness, right? This is what happens when you talk to someone who is experienced and who understands human psychology, who knows who can come to your level and work with you. So something I do, which is very unhealthy way of doing, and nobody should do it, but it works for me, so I do it. So for me, what works is rage, because I was a failure all my life. I was a letdown to myself all my life. So I am not disciplined at all. I can stand and talk for 100 hours nonstop, no problem. That's my personality, as you can tell from this. I like to talk. But it's hard for me to sit on a desk and write or pay attention to read emails. That's not my personality. And the way I do that is basically I use rage. So around 10 in the morning, like around 9 in the morning when I get to my desk, I get filled with rage. It's like, I gotta do this, and then I take that rage. And everybody around me knows, like my family knows, 9 to 6, You don't call him, you don't have personal conversation because I'm filled with rage. Now, if I'm working with people, like I'm working with you, I'm working with my team, that's a whole different thing. I can be nice, but my focus comes from me getting enraged, me telling myself, you're a failure, you don't want to fail again, you know, this. That works for me. Now, unhealthy way, nobody should do that. It works for me, and I'm okay with that. But what you were saying is exactly what it is. Everybody has a driving force. And sometimes you can recognize on your own. And that's when somebody else comes in and shows, maybe this is the way that's going to make you most productive. And when they work with someone like you, they'll have a healthier approach as opposed to getting enraged to get your focus, but whatever gets the job done. The second thing that really stood out to me is like, again, I'm going to share this because coming from your experience and I can relate to everything. And I'm telling you, that's how the impact happens, because you talk of a topic and all of a sudden the light bulbs go on. That's the impact. So the impact from you is not that you're going to give me, here's a 2-step system, do 5 sit-ups and 3 monkey jumps and you're going to be there. It's more about, when I talk to you, I get ideas, my light bulbs go on, and then mental models build. And those mental models is what you start using at work and everywhere in life. And you start to see shifts and, you start to see different results because you have a shift in strategy. I am a perfectionist. So all my life I had really hard time working with people. I could only work with people who were, in my mind, as good as I am, as great as I am. The problem was anybody who was at that level wouldn't want to work with me. They will do their own thing. So it was always a challenge. I would meet people who I was not happy with their performance. So I was like, you're not doing what I want you to do. And then people who I wanted, I couldn't work with. So my mentor in India, when I saw him, he used to work with these people who I always thought like, they're not great. Why you're working with them? And he taught me that a leader is not someone who works with other leaders. A leader is someone who takes anyone and turns them into a leader. Your job as an entrepreneur, as a leader, is to build a team, and your job is to bring out the best in them, not expect them to show up with your best. Because if they're showing up with your best, you're not a leader. What are you leading them for? Like, he didn't use this word, but the way he explained that to me, all of a sudden I realized the mistake I was making. All of a sudden I realized that I did not even have an understanding of my job, of my role, of my leadership. And that changed the whole paradigm to say, oh, that's what I need to do. And it all started by me observing him dealing with one of his staff members. So the impact really comes when you're with someone who's active, who's wise, who's in the world, not just talking, someone who's been doing this for a while. When they start speaking with their experience and they start connecting with you using their experience, that's when the shift happens. So that's what you said, is you don't realize you're impacting them, but just you sharing journey from your life and putting in terms that can connect with me, resonate with me, is where the impact happens. And that's why I love talking this, like as all the questions were out, because everything you were saying was just bing, bing, bing. I can talk about this, and I can literally go on right now for another 3 hours and we won't be out of it. So, but I don't want to do that. I want to torture you. So my last question is, anybody who's listening this, how can they find you? Where can they reach out? So tell them exactly how you can help them, what areas you can actually help them, impact them, where they can find you, what would be their first step to get started with you.
Well, for those who are watching or listening who feel lost, who have that limiting concept of I'm not able to do this, who are stuck, my career is not progressing as I would like to, my relationships are not developing or turning out the way I would want them to. There are answers. That's the good news. The other good news, you have the answers. It's just a matter of, I think in many instances, working with someone, a coach such as myself, to get those answers out and to develop a plan as to what you're going to do to work yourself towards this concept known as success, however that's defined. So that's up to the individual to determine that. I'm in Northwest Florida, but I work with people from all over. As a matter of fact, most of my clients do not live in the region in which I'm located. I've got social media presence on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Instagram, Kirk McCarthy. If you Google my name, I've been on other podcasts besides yours, Magic. I've got a couple of websites. One is for my business. That's the seedsowercoach.com. And the other one is kirkmccarthyauthor.com, which is for my book. So if you Google that name, you will find a connection to me.
Great. So I would just a follow up on this one. What all areas can you help me? So I know for sure that you can really help people in the corporate world. You can help people who are entrepreneurs struggling with their business. You can help people with personal connections. Is there any area where you feel you're extremely like that's your main thing? Though I think you're really good at helping people overcome their obstacles in every area. But is there any area I didn't cover that you also work in? Because right now we're only talking about. Yeah.
My ideal client would be someone who is in an existing work environment, who wants to further develop their executive presence. I want to be a more effective leader here. I think I've got the technical tools, and most people do, but how do I develop these soft skills? How do I learn how to read people? How do I align myself with the culture and do it in an effective manner so that I can fully appreciate my uniqueness, that I can have influence on others, and that maybe as a leader, I become like Nick Saban was as a football coach. Some would argue with his methods, but his results were extremely good. But look at his coaching tree. All those who are currently head coaches that have their teams in the top 10, top 25 of colleges throughout the country. He has obviously got a formula that has done something right. So you develop yourself so that you can share with others the gift also of becoming a good leader and helping them enjoy success.
Excellent. And I do want to add just one last thing. I know a lot of people, especially if someone who's watching this, they often think that if I'm in the corporate world, I need to learn from someone who's wearing a suit or a tie and for the interviews. And I tell you, that's a really bad metrics to look at. The reason I'm saying that is because a lot of people think, but I'm in the corporate world. He's not in the corporate world because he doesn't look like a corporate person. No, understand this. If you want to grow in the corporate world, you don't need the tools of the corporate world. I've worked with every company, from Meta to Google to Apple, every company. I've been in part of the meetings. I've seen what goes on in there. What you need is someone who doesn't need to teach you the corporate world, but show you what your place is and how you need to navigate to the next level. And that's not about someone who teaches you, this is how corporate works. This is someone who has an understanding of corporations, who's worked there, who works with people there, but more importantly, has the skills to look at you and say, this is your place, this is what you're missing, this is what you need to go. And I'm saying this, don't chase the person who looks like he was the manager in this company, because you're not looking for that manager. You're looking for a coach who can help you navigate that environment using your skills, helping you develop that. So I just want to throw that because I had someone raise that question to me last time, but this guy is not wearing a business suit. And I was like, business suit doesn't make someone a better coach. It's like, so I just had to add that because I know somebody's going to throw that again. And it's like, so thank you so much. Sorry, are you going to say something? Please go ahead and add before I say that.
In the business world, I was thinking, and this correlates there as well as to our personal world. This is a men's group that I was part of many years ago, and there were 8 people that were at the table. There was a facilitator, and there was one person who occupied about 50% of the conversation, mostly talking about things not related to the subject. There were the other 6 of us who would have little blurbs every now and then. And there was one person who did not say anything, except maybe towards the end of the meeting, he would say 1 or 2 things. The impact he had was phenomenal. And I picked up lessons from him. In order to have impact at these meetings that we have, that we usually wrap up by saying, well, I think we got a lot accomplished, and we all kind of shrug our shoulders and say, what? Choose your words carefully. Make sure your words are impactful.
Right.
What you say is going to be remembered, it's going to have influence, and let the others bicker among themselves in the
Right.
muck.
Right.
You rise to the top.
Absolutely. What a great ending. So, thank you so much. This was so educational. Like I can't. I'm definitely going to do this one more time. I know you've done this show, but I'm bringing you one more time because and not even one more time. I'm going to bring you multiple times because I feel there is so much I can talk to you, and so much in business that people can benefit from you. I think this has to be an ongoing theme on a regular basis. You might hate me, you might block me everywhere, but I'll still reach out to you. So thank you again. Thank you so much for coming, for opening your heart and giving us the best advice possible. I really, really appreciate that. Thank you.
No, this is a joy and a pleasure, and thank you for that encore opportunity. I will look forward to it. It's been a lot of fun today.
Excellent.